Hello, good evening. I'm Lisa Broom with the Tuesday, March 24th edition of the CBC Evening News. In our top story tonight, Barbados Mass Casualty Response Team was pressed into action this morning after a minibus and a transport board bus collided in St. Peter. That accident at Roadview took place near the St. Peter Cemetery around 6:50. Crews from the ambulance service, the Royal Barbados Police Force, the Defence Force and the fire service responded, along with 4 doctors and nurses from the QEH. 28 people were injured as a result, including the driver of the bus, 51-year-old Trevor Green. The driver of the van was Wayne Harris of Padmore Village, St. Thomas. None of the injuries was deemed life-threatening. 20 people were treated on the scene, 5 were transported to hospital and 3 to the Morris Bayer Polyclinic. 2 vehicles also collided along Rose Hill in St. Peter around the same time of the accident at Roadview. This year's sugar harvest is set to start on Tuesday, April 7th, the day after the Easter bank holiday. Sugar officials have told CBC that steam trials at Port Vale, the sole factory operating this year, will be conducted on April 1st and 2nd. It's also understood that funds for operating expenses for the start of the crop have been finalized. The sugar crop was originally set to start yesterday, but officials of the BAMC said they couldn't as they didn't have the adequate finance to pay wages and other operating expenses. These include monies to operate haulage bins and trailers to transport the canes to the factory. This year's harvest is expected to be one of the lowest on record, producing just under 12,000 tons of sugar. The imposition of fees on students of the University of the West Indies should not be seen as an attack by government on students nor the institution. In fact, Independent Senator Alwyn believes the new fee structure is what he termed a win-win model for the UE.
We need to accept that it has become a problem. The government can no longer fund the university. And the important point is to come up with a new model to fund the university. And the new model will be doing nothing if at the end of it, the university is not better funded than it was before the new model came into being.
Senator Adams wants educational planners to look at the issue of underperformance of students, particularly boys. He says their God-given talents can be harnessed as part of their development.
They have to be brought back on stream in the interests of kickstarting this Barbadian economy. And there are several ways in which that can be done that are not expensive. It calls for a change of attitude in the first place. And it also means that we must take our heads out of the sand.
Government will be having summer camps this year. The announcement has come from Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Affairs, Senator Jepter Ince. He says $400,000 has been provided in this year's estimates for the summer camps. Speaking during the estimates debate in the Senate, Senator Ince said the camps will cater to 5,000 students between the ages of 4 and 15.
Madam President, if you were to divide 400,000 by 500,000, that is $80 per child. $80 per child, $2.67 per day. What is the argument about?
The island's newest senator says Barbados needs to put more in place to ready itself for any possible case of Ebola. Senator Carol Lady Jacobs says a place or room should be identified in addition to the facility provided by the Ministry of Health. She explained what would happen if a possible case of Ebola went to a doctor's office, and that practice would essentially have to be closed for several weeks.
By the time that patient gets to the doctor, the patient would have probably come in contact with a few patients in the waiting room, a clerk, a receptionist, a nurse, and the doctor. All those people would immediately be quarantined for 3 weeks. That center would, at least in the short term, be closed. So let us imagine the scenario where, God forbid, more than one patients presented at more than one healthcare facility, and think about the ramifications of the quarantine and what that would do to the system.
Police are concerned about street robberies and have told Barbadians there are telltale signs of which they might not be aware. For instance, Crime Prevention Officer Acting Inspector Stephen Griffith says some can tell when people have money by the way they carry their bags, particularly women. He is advising Barbadians not to carry anything they're not prepared to lose.
That's the rule in crime prevention. So if you can travel, it makes no sense you go into the bank and you only want $20 and you take $400 because you don't want to go back next week. And then the practice is that everybody walks past all the ATMs during the day, but then a man at 12 o'clock at night, a man wants to go to the ATM for $10. And then he will pick an ATM somewhere up in the bush. The bank put down ATMs anywhere, but you are not to go to them anytime.
While addressing a meeting with business representatives at the Lester Vaughan School, Mr. Griffith said he's observed some practices which are not good security moves. One of these, he says, relates to store windows being blocked by posters.
You want people to be malicious on the outside so that they can see you and help prevent crime. You want persons to be able to see you and you see them. It's called natural surveillance. Criminals generally do not like to be seen. You should be always trusting your instincts. Persons who do not trust their instincts get into trouble all the time.
Extra payment for correcting school-based assessments is utter nonsense. This is according to former principal of the Frederick Smith Secondary School, Reverend Keith Griffith. He says it's the job of teachers to teach, and any additional payment will be defeating the purpose.
In respect of the correcting of the school-based assessment of students, and I'm emphasizing of students, because in my view, I've left the system, that examination is integral to the curriculum and to learning, because examination is important to the process. And therefore I have some difficulty when a case is being made for payment, bearing in mind that the persons are already in full-time employment and are being paid by the state to teach.
Reverend Griffith, was speaking at the Frederick Smith Secondary School, where a ceremony was held to name the school's auditorium after him. He was also presented with a blazer for his contributions during his time at the institution. The former principal says schools will have challenges, but the value of education must not be compromised.
We have to do a lot of work to change a mindset about education and what it means, because cultural changes seems to be creating a shift in persons' minds in respect of education and what it really is.
The Barbados Secondary Teachers Union has found a way to deal with the latest controversy regarding the marking of school-based assessments. President of the BSTU, Mary Ann Redman, says members of the union will be sending uncorrected SBAs to CXC. She says over the years, CXC has increased the workload and says the union has reached its limits.
This year, the sample would consist of a full sample. That is all the students. That is the only difference. And that has been done before. Every now and then, CXC writes to the school and asks for the full sample in any particular subject. It is just that this year, from our members, they're getting all full samples. And they will make their arrangements as to the correction of those full samples.
She was speaking at Solidarity House, where a meeting was held for teachers discussing issues relating to CXC. President of the Barbados Union of Teachers, Pedro Shepherd, says some members of his union are also complaining about the workload given by CXC. As a result, Mr. Shepherd says the BUT will be teaming up with the BSTU to deal with the situation.
We were silent on SBS for quite a while BSTU through Mary Redmond for the last 5 or so years had to carry the fight at the CUT level practically alone. And that is simply because, as I said before, our members never came to us with any issues related to the SBAs. We do not have a lot of members, I guess, at the Cape level and so on, so they were not heavily involved. But as they become more involved now, as CXC is piling on the workload, the BUT is now fully apprised of the situation.
Coming up after the break, a former Prime Minister reaches another milestone. But first, we want to get your take on this question. Do you believe the new fee structure for university education is a win-win model for the UE? Text yes or no to short code 8111. We'll have the results at the end of the news.
Sandals, sandals, sandals galore. Megville gives you ladies sandals for this week only. Monday to Saturday, any pair of sandals for only $25. So go to Megville on Tudor Street, High Street, and Palmetto Street for any pair of sandals for only $25. This week only, Monday to Saturday.
What are you here for? Who do you want to be? Do you want to be somebody that just gave up when it got tough? When you fell? You want to stay on the ground? What do you want people to remember about you? That you didn't give it your all. When they look for your name on the pages of history, what do you want them to see? That you're a quitter? Or that you're a champion? Don't ever give up. Don't quit. Don't stop. Keep running. Keep jumping. Keep laughing. Keep being. Just keep doing. Because you're a champion. The Barbados Secondary School Athletic Championships. Live on CBC TV.
The BSAC Finals, brought to you by Good Time Snacks, Sports and Games, the Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union, the National HIV/AIDS Commission, Days Bookstore, and Amaze.
Crime has reared its ugly head in our community.
This on my arm, look, Miss Emmy's there! Did they see your face?
Dexter, isn't he the ex-con?
You need to trust me.
What a black bastard in here for, huh?
Let her go! Judy Marroch! You lose, Dexter! You lose!
Barbados is benefiting tremendously from celebrity exposure during crop-over, and it should help the country as it tries to boost its tourism numbers. This revelation from band leader of Fantasy, Amanda Reefer. Fantasy's 2015 presentation was launched over the weekend at the Hilton Hotel.
Once again, Fantasy is out early again for the festival. Certainly, it's a good strategy for you and a good strategy for the country.
Yes, I think it's important. I say all the time that this is a business for me. Not only do I have international customers, but it's also important that people have time to pay for costumes locally. I don't like to dwell on recession, but it is a reality. So it is important for us to launch early, to put our product out there early. So it really benefits the country, and crop-over then starts earlier. My hope is that more bands will launch earlier so that we can start the festival and start to generate some of the revenues and the excitement about the festival, not just here, but internationally.
What are your numbers expected to be this year? And tell me about pricing. Really, in this economy, people are concerned about pricing.
Yes. Well, we adopted an international strategy very early on in 2011 when we first started. This is our 5th year. And for that reason, we have grown steadily. We are expecting about 1,000 masqueraders on the road this year. We have 2 sections which we've sold to one Trinidadian entity and another entity, local entity with New York affiliations. So that is expected then to grow the band as well. And just the general growth pattern of Fantasy, we expect about 1,000 people on the road. As it relates to pricing, the prices will go up because what I have brought, or what we Fantasy, I should say, have brought this year are high quality costumes that when you look at them, you think Trinidad, you think they have done something special. But that special meant an increase in cost.
The speaker wouldn't reveal the prices. She said they would be announced shortly. She also told us that the band will be building on its celebrity initiative this year.
We're bringing more than one celebrity. Actually, since Columbus short, we've gotten a lot of interest from other celebrities to come. They're curious about Crop Over and what Crop Over has to offer, and we just have to make sure as a country that we have the product that is deserving of them being here.
Local producer and entertainer Blood is still riding on a high from last year's Crop Over Festival, and Trinidad's Carnival is back with a compilation album for 2015. Blood didn't produce one last year because of the economic situation, but he told CBC this year he's excited about the quality of music on offer and is coming with what he calls a smaller album with 15 to 20 tracks.
I think we're going to have a fantastic crop of songs. Everybody's prepared. All of the producers are in working hard. I've heard some from different studios, so I know that things are going to be really, really good. And like I said, I expect it to be, I expect the magic of Crop Over in 2015. The album is actually going to be called Abracadabra, hashtag the magic of Crop Over. So you know what? We're going to have a lot of magic in 2015 from everybody right across the board.
Blood says he's been closely monitoring the development of many artists over the past few years.
They're seeing a different focus on how we do stuff and how it could be and how it should be, as well as their own styles. And the thing is, what happens with me especially is I learn a lot from them. I learn about their language, I learn about the way they see things, I learn about the way they perceive things, and I try to teach them the way that we've been doing it so that we have a nice balance. And I think if it continues like that, we're going to have a fantastic time going on the road. It's going to be, we're going to have some real development.
A former Prime Minister celebrates his birthday today with the release of a new book on his life in public office. It also details how he led the country through some of the toughest years Barbados has ever seen. Shane Seeley has the story.
This is the story of my life.
Former Prime Minister Sir Lloyd Erskine Sandiford speaking to me about his latest work titled Fighting for the Just Society. The autobiographical book gives an account of Sir Lloyd's service to Barbados as a parliamentarian for 32 years, as Prime Minister, and as Barbados's ambassador to China.
This is the course that it took. And maybe there are some areas that I have sought to explain in more detail than others.
Those areas include his contribution to education. Sir Lloyd was the first education minister in a post-independence era in the cabinet of the late father of independence, national hero, the Right Excellent Errol Walton Barrow. Sir Lloyd is also the man who founded the Barbados Community College back in 1968. Another area that readers will find very interesting, Sir Lloyd's take on his handling of the turbulent years 1991 to 1992. That's when Barbados entered an IMF program.
Somebody had to take bold steps, and that lot fell to me. And I said, let us grasp the opportunity and let us do what is in the best interest of Barbados. I sincerely hope that if Barbados is confronted with similar situations, that we would get out of that situation without the same pain that we had to go through for the gains that our country accomplish.
Sir Lloyd believes that there are several lessons to be learned from his autobiographical note.
So I believe you can learn how to do things, or you can learn how not to do things. So it works both ways.
And with the release of the new book, Sir Lloyd Erskine Sandiford celebrates another milestone, his 78th birthday. Happy birthday, Sir Lloyd. Shane Seeley, CBC News.
Still to come, a look at some of the stories making headlines across the region. But first, a reminder